Hi, I'm Donna R. Madden, author, book lover, and your host of Books, Banter, and Beyond, the podcast for everyone who believes in the power of stories, the people who create them, and the communities that celebrate them. Whether you're a reader, a writer, or someone who just loves everything bookish, this is your space. Welcome. Hey everyone, welcome to Books, Banter, and Beyond. I am Donna, your host, and today I'm here with Leani Lopez. And Leani she's an author and a podcaster and wears so many hats. And I'm so looking forward to getting to know all of them in the time we have. So Leani, can you go ahead and introduce yourself?
Sure. I am Leani Lopez. Little strange first name, spelled Leani. And I am a Puerto Rican author, ghostwriter, podcaster, mom, uh, audio drama producer, pretty much anything creative that I want to do, I kind of do it. I
There you
don't have any
go.
control over that. But I have been writing full time since 2018. I actually left my previous full-time job to do this full-time.
Oh wow.
And it has been a wild ride. We'll just say that.
Very, very neat. So now that's a lot of hats. That is a lot, okay? Which
Yes.
one do you think you spend the most time doing?
Well, for the last 2 years or so, it's been the audio drama producing.
Okay.
Just a little bit of background. Audio dramas are stories that are written specifically for the audio format. So think of like the old school radio shows that there used to be. It's just that, but
Okay.
in podcast form. And I had this idea for about a decade now at this point for this very specific story, and it never really went further than like the ideas that I kept percolating. And then about 2 years ago, after I had finished my first audio drama, I was like, oh, it's supposed to be in this format. So I essentially put all my other writing projects, except for ghostwriting aside, and I worked on this from about 2023 until last year when the first season came out. And it was an intense 2 years of work. I wrote the scripts, but I also directed, acted, edited. I did everything.
Okay.
It's just easier just to say that I did it all. And yeah, it was a very important story to me. And that came out last year. And then this year, I actually finally finished a manuscript for a book I've been trying to write, also probably about that length of time.
Okay.
Yeah.
So,
So yeah, a little bit of both.
what makes an audio drama different from an audio book?
I actually had to look this up specifically when I was
Okay.
researching the format. So the audio drama versus audio book is that an audio book is typically a physical book or an ebook that is read by a narrator.
Mm-hmm.
Usually one person is doing all the voices. Usually there's not really music or sound effects. Maybe there's like a second narrator. Whereas an audio drama is a fully scripted, full cast story made for audio with music, sound effects, all of that. Um, Sometimes has narration, doesn't always.
Okay. So I know a lot of audiobooks. Okay, not that the small authors would do, but especially in the science fiction realm, they're getting to that place.
Yeah,
Have you ever read the books Red Rising, the Red Rising series?
I have not. It's on my very long to be to be
Okay.
read list.
Well, all three of my boys have. They finally talked me into it, but they've listened to the audiobooks and
Mhm.
they have the sound effects and the music and all the
Yeah,
different voices, and it's a lot for me because I'm a book person, you know.
yeah.
But so I'm guessing that's what it's like. So did you do an audio drama of one of your own books?
I did not for a couple reasons. I have
Okay.
two books released under my name, and but I have been ghostwriting since 2018. So I've honestly lost count of how many books I've actually written,
Okay.
but I have two under my name. And I have been asked about this, whether or not I've produced my own audiobooks, and I have
Mhm.
not for several reasons. The main one is when I released those books, I had already written them several years prior. So it's almost like revisiting like your middle school years.
Right,
Like,
right.
and also they are romance, whereas my audio drama is fantasy. So my books
Okay,
lean towards like the spicy romance, and I don't want to read that or direct someone to read that.
right. I wonder why. Yes, I write spicy romance, so yeah, when I have to read it
Yeah.
back over or someone like, hey, can you read us? I'm like, no, I'm not reading this out loud. Sorry, but you can write it.
One
Yes,
day
yes.
I will hand it off to somebody else to do, but I personally don't.
There
I
you go.
could. I don't
Okay,
want to.
so you've done how many audio dramas have you produced?
I have done two. One
Two.
of them is a 5 chapter standalone story. I released that, I believe it was in 2022. That was my first sort of like, try to see if I could do it. And
Right.
it took a long time just because life. But so that it's called To Court Death. It's more of like a horror drama based, and that's a lot of narration for that one. And
Okay.
then the second one, which I released last year, is called Battle Cry. This one is actually going to be multiple seasons. I just started writing the script for season 2, and that one is full fantasy. More, I say queer fantasy because literally every character is a queer character. I am a queer woman. And it's pure high fantasy, which has always been like my favorite. So it's really fun to dive into the genre that I don't get to write as often as I, did when I was like a teenager. So
Right. So, okay, so you're producing Battle Cry. You wrote the script, which I really think that is cool because it's not the novel, it's a script written
yeah,
for
yeah,
the audio drama.
yeah,
Do you have a whole cast that you're
I do.
okay? How many people are you working with?
Um, it helps to be a theater nerd and to
Okay.
be married to a theater nerd and to have been friends with them for a while. But I'm friends with a local theater group, Theater Up in Littleton, New Hampshire, and they've known for years that I was working on this. Some of them actually were into Court Death. Um, but because so many people agreed to do it, I was like, cool. So I kind of went a little ham on the character cast size. So there was about 17 speaking roles.
Oh my God.
I know. I'm so glad I did not know how much work it would take. Otherwise, I never would have
Right.
attempted it.
So
Yeah.
are you all sitting in one room around different microphones and just reading, or is it like how you sometimes see it where this character just reads lines and then you
Yeah.
have to splice it all together?
Yep. One person at a time.
Oh, good Lord. Wow.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so are you finished Battle Cry or are you still working on that one?
I'm finished with season 1. All 10
Season one.
seasons or all 10 episodes of the first season are up. Um,
And how long have you been working on that?
from starting the script until it actually all went live, it was about 2.5 years. Probably
Okay.
closer to 3, but
Where can people listen to that? Where do you
it
find
is
that?
everywhere. It's on Spotify, it's
Okay.
on Apple Podcasts, it's on YouTube, and also I have it linked directly on my website so people can download the episodes directly onto their devices.
Oh, okay. So it's out there everywhere. You have done all that work too.
Yeah, we just hit 1 year in May, and we just hit 10,000 total listens in the
Oh,
last year.
wow.
Yeah, that's insane.
Yes. Wow. Wow. Okay. I'm just floored because that just sounds like it's so much work. And here I am struggling to get a novel done by August 10th when it has to go to my editor. I mean, it's done, but it's all my revisions I have to do.
Yeah. Well, there's
It's
a reason that was the only thing I was working on.
I guess so. I guess so. And there's like sound effects and music and everything. You've done all that?
Yep.
Do you have a sound booth or do you just do it on a computer somewhere?
Nope, just on a computer, just a mic here in my basement. Next season, we will have an actual recording booth
Oh, cool.
because my husband and I are building our first house, which has been stressful. But
I
because we
bet.
got to design it, I will actually have an office, and we were actually designing a recording booth for future podcasts and just all the audio work I do.
Okay, so that is something I've never heard of. So that is really cool. I'm really excited about diving into audio drama myself and listening and stuff. But now let's go to something that you said that really interests me, and that's your ghostwriting. And I know you
Yeah,
can't talk about details because you're a ghostwriter,
correct.
you know,
Correct.
but I'm going to ask a question. And
Okay.
if you don't want to answer it, don't.
Okay.
Okay. But this is something that I've always thought about. You've Okay, well, first of all, for people who don't know, who might be listening and don't know what a ghostwriter is, can you explain what a ghostwriter is and what they do?
Correct. I can do that for you. So a ghostwriter is essentially someone who is hired to write a book for someone else. Typically, someone else's name will be on the finished product, but they either work with that person or work with an intermediary to gather all the information on the book. This happens a lot with um, biographies or autobiographical things,
Hmm.
but I do romance. I do it in a romance genre, in the romance genre rather. And yeah, so I get hired and I write this book for this person, and then I get to hand it off to them and do something else.
Okay, so has any of your books ever like made it to the like into the best-selling categories?
I don't know because I stopped looking. Very early on in my writing career, I was really interested in that. Mainly, I was interested in feedback because I just haven't had like it's one-on-one feedback in so long. And after a bit, I realized it was a slippery slope. So I just stopped searching that out. I did have a funny thing happen recently, like this summer, where one of those books did just come up organically on my Instagram from another Bookstagram account. And I was like, "Oh, that's really funny." And then I like read the description and I was like, "I don't remember any of this story." I knew I wrote
Wow.
it, but it was so long ago that I was like, none of this is ringing any bells.
Oh, that's funny. So how many books have you ghost written? Is it ghost written? Is that the
I
term?
say ghost written.
Okay.
That's what I say.
All right. Sounds good to me.
um, I stopped counting at 20.
Okay.
So it's over 20.
Is there a part of you that wishes you would have put your name on any of these books?
No.
No? You're good with it. You got paid and you can move on.
Yeah, and the way I do it, I'll get into the details. I get a lump sum right at the beginning
Mhm.
of the project, and then, whatever goes over what is agreed, I get paid that. And then I don't have to edit it, I don't have to market it. I don't have to think about it anymore. I get to just hand it off and somebody else
It's
gets
true.
to deal with that. And also it's all in the same genre. They're all like romantic comedies, and that's not my genre. I'll write it, but it's not my personal preference. It was hard when I wasn't working on my own work, and that's where the balance comes in. Like
Gotcha.
now that I'm working on my own stuff, the ghostwriting almost becomes automatic writing because I've done it so many
So,
times. Yeah.
do you only ghostwrite for one author or do you ghostwrite for many?
I have ghost written, I guess, for multiple authors at once, and I found that was just too confusing. So I actually used to be with a ghostwriting company right in the beginning of my ghostwriting career, and I ended up leaving just for more freedom and, timeline wise. I have a son who has special needs, and it was
Mhm.
just too consuming. Um, so my client actually found me through that company and then hired me directly through my website after I left. And I've just been working with her. Like we've had such a good rapport. She gives me a lot of creative license. Like even if we agree on something, she's like, if it makes a better story to deviate, or if the outline's just not matching up with the pacing of the story, you can, fix it. So I'm really comfortable with her and she's really understanding. And I really only have time to work with one person at a time.
Right. So it's her outline. She's done like probably a very in-depth outline, and she gives that over to you to write. Is that how that?
We work on the outline together, but usually she has like the main concept. She'll have like character information and things like that. It's almost a little bit like a different form of fan fiction.
Okay.
So, like for people who don't know, fan fiction is when you take characters from a book or a TV show or a movie and you write a story with those characters. It's sort of the same concept.
Okay. Fiction has always confused me because I don't see how that's legal. Taking like Harry Potter characters and putting them into somewhere else. Do you keep the names or just change them and base your characters on them?
It depends. It's you don't usually get paid for fan fiction.
Right.
When you start getting paid for fan fiction, that's when it gets a
Okay.
little dicey. But most of the time you're not claiming like these are my characters. You're just like, hey, I'm just borrowing them for a bit.
Having fun with it or something.
Yeah.
Okay. So when was the last time you completed a book that you ghost wrote? I mean, how do you use
I
that as a
know.
verb?
It depends on your mood.
Right. Ghost written, ghost wrote, whatever.
Yeah. I finished one earlier this year, actually.
Oh, okay.
It yeah, it took about 9 to 10 months to write.
Okay. So
Yeah.
you're still focusing on that just because you enjoy doing it.
Yeah, yeah, and it also helps pay the bills, and it allows me to have creative freedom to do my own stuff in between.
Very good. All right. So we've talked about your audio dramas
Mhm.
and your ghost writing, but now
Yes,
you're also an author.
I am.
Okay. Because we have nothing else to do with our audio dramas and our ghost writing. We're going to write our own books also.
My
Why not?
dad, my dad said that to me a couple weeks ago. He was like, "Why don't you just do the one thing?" And I was
Right?
like, "I have ADHD. If I could just do the one thing, it would be amazing."
Would. But I mean, the good thing is if you get bored of one thing, you can go to something else and come back. So
Yes,
that's a good
it really cuts down on the writer's block because each project is so vastly different that
thing.
it's like a
Hmm.
palate cleanser before I
Right.
go back to the other one. Yeah.
Well, that is really cool. So, what do you write? Tell us about your books.
I like to write romance, but I like to write romance weaved in with other genres.
Hmm.
So my very first book was not romance at all. It was fantasy, and it is no longer available because that was
I'll have one of those.
a decade ago. But when I relaunched or launched my writing career officially, I had my romance novel called Slip of the Hand, which was a very more like mafia type, sort of like crime thriller mixed with romance. And then my second book was a novella called Lost in the Dark, and that was romance in a dystopian setting.
Oh,
So
okay.
I like I love romance. I love writing romance, and it just it just feels really good to mix that with different genres and see how that affects the people in the story. Because I think the main thing that I'm drawn to in all the work I do are the characters. Like, what do the characters do? How do they interact with each other? Why do they interact with each other? Things like that. So I tend to follow the story idea, not necessarily the genre that I think it should go into. I'm like, oh, this is actually kind of leaning this way, Let's
Right.
see where it goes.
Well, I think all books are better with a little bit of romance. At least then you have something
Yeah,
something
just
to,
a little
root
bit.
for, I write romance, but still it's like I
Yeah.
have lots of different other genres I want to write one day and stories and stuff, but they all have a
Mhm.
little bit of a romance something to them, a
Yeah,
subplot,
it's
whatever.
it's so funny you say that because I think the book, like my current book that I am working on now and finally drafted, I think it took so long because I was trying to not do romance because I was
Oh,
deep in ghostwriting during, when I finally got a chance to work on it. And I didn't know what genre it was going to be. I was kind of jumping around. It's about queer lady pirates. And so when I was like, okay, I really want to make this work because I feel like there's something here. I
Right.
reread what I had so far, and the thing I was drawn to was the romantic tension between the two characters. And I was like, I'm gonna go with it because it's
There
not
you go.
getting done if I fight it.
Exactly. It's like,
Yeah.
you're writing something and you have your characters all fixed. And yeah, you have side characters, and all of a sudden one side character jumps jumps in and becomes
Yep.
one of the main characters. Like, where'd you come from? Why are you doing
Yeah.
this?
Yeah.
You're not
Yeah.
supposed to
I
be here. Yeah.
Yeah, I had that. It was also my first book where I was doing like different point of view characters,
Hmm.
which is something I learned to do with ghostwriting because it's usually like the male point of view and the female point of
Right.
view in
That's
the
a
same
big
book.
thing for romance.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
so and there was this whole aspect of the book, like the villain that I wasn't like exploring. So I was like, well, let's jump and see what he's doing. And
Uh-huh.
so like I'm writing this scene and it's like the villain's assistant is going to like do something and just literally out of nowhere, this dark, shadowy man just steps into the scene. And I'm like, who the hell are you?
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
Yeah, and because I have a notebook that I have all my ideas in, and I ended up, connecting him to the story very organically, and I was like, oh, that's who you are. Okay, all right.
So, and that happens
Yeah, they
so
really
much
just like
in writing.
just stepped out of the shadows.
Okay. Yeah. I write small town romance, and they're all interconnected standalones. And people ask me all the time how many books I'm going to have. And I'm like, right now it's six. But, I'm, like I said, I'm revising book five right now. And
Hmm.
this character is there. And I'm like, and he has, every time I revise, he gets more lines. And I'm like, he's a turd. He'd be a great character for a future book, you know? And
Yeah,
so I'm like, but I really want to move on. But people love this world, and so who knows? It will be what it is, you know?
yeah. The characters just do what they want, and it's so
I do,
funny. Like people who don't write are like, "What do you mean? Can't you just make
right?
them do?" It's like writing is not that easy. If we could just make them do
My
what
gosh,
we
we'd be able
wanted
to,
them to do.
that would be awesome. And here's the thing. We're writing, and yeah, like I'm a very big outliner. I have
Yep.
an outline, but I never follow my outlines 100% because it doesn't work. I'm
Yeah.
in the scene. I'm like, wait a minute, that doesn't work. We're going to go here, and
Yeah.
then my outlines are, phew, sometimes it's
Yep.
totally doesn't even, I'm like, that outline had nothing to do with my story. So it's
Yeah.
like built.
I I I fleshed out the outline for season 2 of Battle Cry and I was so proud. I was like, oh,
Hmm.
I have an outline, I have almost everybody's character arcs. And then I started writing episode 2 of season 2. And this character was just starts saying this dialogue, and I'm like, what are you doing? What are you doing with that, bud? And I realized
Dude,
it was a thread that I hadn't pulled. Like I just completely forgot because there's a lot of characters. I completely
right.
forgotten, and everybody separated and stuff. And he was just like, "No, I'm chasing this down." And I was like, "Well, somebody should." So there you go.
There you go. And it's like it just happens, and usually it turns out right. So
Yeah,
outlines are great, but you have to be flexible to let the story go where
yeah.
it goes. You
They're
know,
more like guidelines.
there you go. A guideline, a very sometimes very detailed guideline, but
Yeah.
still without that guideline, I don't know where I'm possibly going to end up. So at least I have a sort of map with multiple
Yes.
different roadways to get there.
Yeah. And I think part of that for me too, getting it in an outline or writing notes, is to get the ideas out of my head so that I
Yeah,
don't have to focus on them anymore. And that's usually when new ideas can come
that's
like just flooding in.
that's a good way to see it. It absolutely is. All right, so we're talking about all your writing and my gosh, you have different writings out there. What made you decide to become a writer?
I don't know if it was ever like a decision that was up to me. It was just kind of in my DNA.
Okay.
Because I don't remember a time I didn't want to be a writer.
Hmm.
And like I used to say, like, it definitely kicked off in middle school. That's like I got my first laptop and I was like, and, just writing all the time. But I was that kid that would tear through series at like the drop of a hat. And I really didn't think anything of it. And I've told this story a million times on my own podcast. But last year or at the beginning of this year, my mom said she was going through a bunch of old stuff and she found stuff from first grade. And there is a story I wrote in
Oh
first grade
my gosh.
that she still has. And I told her, please don't read it. Don't know what it is.
Oh my gosh, but that's first grade. That's
First grade. I
adorable.
was like, oh, so it was
What if it's
definitely
good?
like,
What if it's really good and cute?
we'll see. I haven't been back
Yeah,
home in a while, so I haven't read it yet.
well, you need to read that because you never know. Maybe you
I
could
know.
incorporate that into one of your books. Have a first grader as a character.
Yeah, she told me the title, which was The Ghost in Mrs. McCarthy's Class or something like that. And I was like, oh, so I was spooky back then too.
There you
Like,
go.
I was
Right
like,
on
oh, it's
heart.
always been there.
There you go. That is so you've always liked to write.
Yes.
Even back to first grade. Look at you. All right.
Yeah, but yeah.
Walk us through. Okay, and you're gonna have to choose which one. I don't care. Okay. But walk us through your writing process. That way, people who are listening or watching on YouTube, if they want to be a ghostwriter or an author or an audio drama, which might be where things are going, because that is, like I said,
Yeah, it seems to be
audio.
having a boom right now. Yeah.
Yes. If choose one and tell us what your writing process looks like.
Well, thankfully, my writing process is pretty similar with all of them. I mean,
Okay.
ghostwriting's a little bit different because those ideas are given to me.
Hmm.
But when it's an idea that I have organically, the first thing I do is grab a notebook and start writing down the idea.
Okay.
Just even if it's like a scene, because sometimes just a scene or, some visual will come to me, but I will just put literal pen to paper and just write down all of the ideas and things that are coming into my head in that moment. And then the next thing I do is go on Spotify and create a playlist for it.
Okay.
That is my go-to. Music is very inspirational. I try not to have the same songs across different playlists because
Hmm.
what it does is as soon as I put that playlist on, it puts my head into that story mode. So it's
Gotcha.
kind of easier to focus on that particular idea. If it's a story that has a lot of characters, most of the characters will have their own playlist.
Wow.
But there's usually a
So
general
you're
playlist.
17 characters. That's a lot of songs.
Well, it was 17 speaking roles. There were some overlapping, but I tried
Okay.
to focus on just the main characters. I did have someone who had like a one-off character ask for like everything I did for like the main characters, and I'm like, sweetie, I just can't. I'm so sorry. I appreciate the enthusiasm, but you are in one episode.
There you go.
But like the main characters who I know are going to be sticking around for a while or who
Mhm.
we're going to follow. So like in my pirate novel is called Phoenix's Call, and it
Okay.
is the first book in what will be a Queer Pirates romance series. And each book, I've got about 5 books planned in total, but each book will follow a different crew member and a different romantic trope or, different tropes or subgenre. And so I have playlists for those crew members because they're all very specific vibes. And
Okay.
so, yeah, so once the notes are down and the music's flowing, I just kind of brainstorm for the story. I used to just dive right into the writing portion of it, but with
Right.
ghostwriting, I've had to do so many outlines that it's transferred over to my own work. And I do that because I want to see if there's enough there for something substantial. Because I've had a lot of story ideas come to me that way, And then I get into it and there's no like meat and potatoes. It's just sort of like
Right.
the bones of something. And it doesn't get very far. And then I get frustrated. So I really try to brainstorm and sit with it and see where the story can go. And if there are if there's only really one way it could go, I kind of get bored.
Right. And that's a good point because just because you have a thought and it's a good thought to make it a story, it has to be a lot of words. How long are your novels?
Very long.
Very long. Well, I
Yeah.
mean, you write fantasy pirates. I mean, just the word fantasy right there.
Well, that's romance. Pirates isn't fantasy.
Oh, okay. Okay.
But yeah, that one right now is around 130K words.
Holy crap.
Yeah.
Okay. Mine are about 70 to 80,
That's
contemporary
usually
romance.
ghostwriting
Yeah.
is that.
Hmm.
Yeah. I'm cutting
So,
it down.
so yeah, so that's a great way to explain this. I mean, if you have an idea, it has to be long enough and in depth enough with enough conflicts to create that many words. And I mean,
Yeah.
people need to, if you read romance, the average romance book is 70 to 80,000 words. Now, there's some that are getting
Yep.
really crazy thick. Like Lucy Score has some out there that are like, they've got to be 100,000 words.
Yeah.
And Elsie
Yeah.
Silver does also. But the average one, we're all about the same thickness, and they're about 70, 80, 85,000 words. And that's a lot. And then you have 100,000 plus, and that's a whole lot more. So
Yeah.
yeah, you have to have enough going on in your story to write that many words.
Yeah,
So
yeah, and there has to be for me there has to be substance. There has to be something past, what you see with the main character. I
mhm.
I love archetypes. I love literary archetypes especially, but I like to push them and I like to twist them a little bit if I
Right.
can. Or maybe they fully lean into the archetype and that's really fun too, and you can kind of go ham with it. But but for me, like I said before, it's all character based. And if I can't like if the plot is great, the words are great, the setting's great, everything's great, but I can't connect with the character, I'm bored.
Yeah. Right. Well, the characters are what drive the plot.
Yes.
So if you
Yeah.
don't have complex characters, then they're going to be boring.
It's gonna be a little flat. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So, okay, talking about characters, how do you develop your characters?
Sometimes they kind of spring like Athena, they kind of spring from my head fully formed. And then they're
Okay.
just like, this is who I am. And I'm like, okay, hello, welcome. Um, but sometimes they develop because there is a hole in the narrative that I'm missing.
Mm,
And a lot of times these characters will just happen to like slot into that,
hmm.
outline. And this actually happened with Battle Cry, and because it was only audio and
Hmm.
because I knew there was going to be multiple seasons, I wanted the characters, the main ones at least, to be very distinct from each other.
Right.
And to do that, they each needed to have something to do, and so there I had this one character, perfect example, the character of Pain, who is a demon and voiced by my brother, which was really fun to do. He he started off as a completely different character in the beginning. He was very like close with my character before I even knew my brother was going to play the character. We were very close, and he was sort of like helping the heroes try to like I don't want to give everything away, but try to
Right.
fight
Yeah.
and try to give them an edge. He was sort of their man on the inside. And then when I was writing it, I realized I already had another character who was like that. So that instead of like having this really like meaty role, it was like spliced into two characters that were both flat. So I gave it to the other character who made sense for them to have that personality, and he actually became the antagonist to that character. He went the opposite way.
Oh, wow.
And he ended up he's also the character that was like, "Hey, you forgot this plot thread." So he likes to do his own thing.
There you go.
But but what it did was it gave him a different character. It gave him some dimension. It gave the character something to do. And yeah, I actually everybody got character sheets because that's what I do. And they
Mhm.
all actually have their character archetype on their character sheets. And I told them all, this is what your character starts as,
Uh-huh.
but that's not gonna that's not gonna last. So it gave them like a starting point, it gave me a starting point. And sometimes if I'm feeling like they're leaning too much into somebody else's territory, I try to nudge it back into that archetype a little bit.
Okay, so you're using a really fun literary term. I'm an English teacher. I love the term and I love going into archetypes. What is your favorite archetype to write? What character do you love the most?
I love the reluctant hero who rejects the call. I
Yeah.
love the hero who is like, I am not doing that. Absolutely not. I've got my own shit to deal with. Like that is my favorite type of character. And because it's always great when they're like, damn it, and then they get pulled into the plot.
Well,
Like,
and I think it's because in real world, we
yeah.
can, you know, we all have experienced that. We can relate very well.
Yeah.
I know I need to do this, but gosh, that is hard or that is scary or, that it's going to take time or I don't know what's
Yeah.
going to happen. I just want to keep doing what's easy, you know?
Yeah, it definitely takes a lot of courage to do that,
Hmm.
especially when like, you don't know what the road is ahead.
Exactly.
And and I think one of the reasons because I voice one of the characters in Battle Cry. Her name is Grace, and I often conflict with her because she is the hero.
Gotcha.
And I'm just like, oh, girl, what are you doing? Like, I don't see myself in her at all, which makes it very fun to voice. This is very different. But it's very fun to have those two characters like in a
Mhm.
group together. It
Oh,
was just
I'm
like,
sure.
no, I'm just gonna do this thing. It's like, but people need help, and they're like, like, come
Have you
on.
ever been going into the drama, and you're okay, it's only been one season, but how many episodes did you have in that season?
10.
10. Okay. Was there ever a time that you, as the writer of this, are listening to it and then all of a sudden you're like, wait a minute, that character's not working? And you're in it.
Yeah,
And have you ever changed while you're producing something?
I did that a lot.
Okay.
More for Battle Cry than to Court Death, which was my first audio drama. It was very self-contained. It was originally written as a screenplay, so it just had natural breaks and also several years ago, so my characters were not as in-depth as they
Right.
probably are now. That was pre-ghostwriting experience. So
Mhm.
writing this
Okay.
after ghostwriting is so different. But there was a lot of stuff I had to change while editing. I
Okay.
actually let everybody know, like, you will have redos. Like, once I get through all the dialogue, we will come back and we will record stuff. And so they all had that in their head. I think we actually ended up doing those like a year after we did all the recording because I did it all at once, sort of like a movie. I did all the recording at once and then edited later.
Hmm.
And there were certain things where I was like, hey, this line doesn't make sense. Like this came across this way. It should probably like because I liked the way the other actor did their part, so like, we tailored it. And there was there was one line that I really loved. It made me really laugh so hard. And it comes from this character who's very like Deadpool-esque, very quippy, very like says
Okay.
all the innuendos and stuff. And it made me laugh for like 15 minutes when I thought of this dialogue. And I was able to work it in and we recorded it and it made me laugh then. And then I got to the editing and it didn't work. It just
Oh
didn't work with the tone. It did like I had to cut that line entirely because it made more sense for the other character to just keep talking. And I actually
oh,
put a sad face in the script.
I bet.
And the actor is a good friend of mine, and I was like, I had to edit it out, and he was like, no, like,
Well,
but I was like,
maybe
I'm
you can
saving
use
it.
that. Maybe you can keep that line somewhere and use it somewhere else at some other point.
Yeah, that's what I was like, I will find a way to make it work.
It's everyone's favorite. You got to use it.
Because it just made us laugh so hard.
But it didn't work where you had it.
Yeah, and
And
there was a
you know
lot
what
of
you
that.
should do
Yeah.
is when you put it back in, don't tell him.
Yeah.
Surprise him
Yeah.
with it to see if he realizes that
Yeah.
you put it back in without letting him know wherever you put it in.
Yeah. Well, I think part of that also is when the reason why I was like drawn to writing audio dramas, it's that it's story through dialogue. Like I did not want to have narration for Battle Cry because it was pure narration for the other one. So I like to do the opposite of what I just did. And it was storytelling through dialogue, sound effects, and music, which is such a like different way for me to write. And so, yeah, a lot of dialogue change. Like on a page, people going back and forth is
Mm-hmm.
fine. Like that's how we always read it. But when you're editing that and listening to it, it's it sounds stilted. Like,
Right.
and so there would be a lot of times where like full lines would just be cut because it just made sense for the other person to just keep talking. And I was just like, I'm learning a lot about how people talk and how dialogue
Oh, there
works.
I'm sure. Well, that's like, I can write my novels, but my first novel, No One But You, well, the first of my series, I just made into an audiobook. And
Mhm.
there's just times when you're writing and you have quick stuff and you just throw in I said or she argued, blah, blah,
Yeah.
whatever. And then when you hear it, you're like, oh, that's a lot. Because when it's
Yeah.
being read, you don't
Yeah.
really need that as much. And it just
Yeah.
sounds weird when it's being read. So now I
Yeah.
try to go back and fix that. I'm like, if there's two people on the page, you should be able to keep up if it's a short dialogue,
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
getting rid of some of those dialogue tags work.
Yeah. And another way to just do that to know who is who is paying attention to what language each person uses and
Mm,
like how they would say things. I learned that that was probably the best piece of writing advice I ever received. I went to college for writing, and I
okay.
had presented a page of dialogue to this creative writing workshop, which was like my favorite class. It literally, we just wrote and gave each other feedback. That was it.
Oh, wow.
And and they were like, it was hard for me to tell who was talking unless you pointed out who it was. And it was my professor who was like, she would probably refer to this being as they or she, whereas this like meaner person would be it, or and it was the first time
Okay.
I really had that realization that the words you say actually do mean things and
That
how
is
you say
true.
them.
And your
And
personality brings out
yeah,
and talk.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And so that was a big thing that just got turned up to 11 when working with only dialogue is
Wow.
really making sure that their voices were distinct. Even if, I mean, most of them had pretty distinct natural speaking voices anyways, but
Right.
even like just listening to the words, you can be like, oh, that's so and so talking. Yeah.
Very good. Well, how can people find you? Whether it's
Uh,
well, I mean, they can't find your
everywhere.
ghostwriting, but your audio dramas, your books.
Mhm.
How can they find you? Where can they find you?
I have a website, leanilopez.com,
And I will
and
put
that
that
is
in the transcript. Okay.
perfect. And that is where my books are. You can also find my books on Amazon. My audio dramas, as I said, are Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, all of them, but you can also download them directly from my website as well onto
Okay.
whatever device you want. And I also have a writing podcast that
Right.
dispenses writing advice. And same thing, just you can go to my website and just either listen to it in the browser or just download it onto your phone.
Well, and I was going to say that for last, your
Okay.
podcast. What, really quick, because we are running out of time.
Yes.
What is your podcast about? And who would be interested
Yeah.
in listening?
It's called I Got Nothing, a podcast for exhausted writers. And it started off being just, writing advice. I started it just after quarantine. I had the idea in quarantine and sort of
Okay.
developed it after. And so the first three seasons are just me dispensing advice, but the last two seasons, like the current one that's coming out and the one before, I've actually switched to interviewing specifically indie authors
Okay.
and just giving them a chance to, share their work, a little bit of free marketing because I just do it for
Right.
fun, for free. And also because I really liked the advice portion, just dispensing writing advice from their point of view. We have authors from all walks of life, authors from different, stages in their career. Some haven't even debuted yet, some have multiple books. And yeah, it's just a great chance for me to meet other indie authors and sort of have a platform for us indies.
And that leads me to one of my last questions was, are you indie or are you trad? Have you always been indie?
Yes, I have always been indie.
Are your ghostwriting books indie or trad, or can you not answer that question?
I don't know. To be
Okay.
quite honest, I don't know.
Okay. Very,
I don't
very,
ask many questions.
hey, it is what it is. And I
Yeah.
know the one thing I know about ghostwriting is that you are, and that's why I'd have a hard time
Yeah.
because I have a hard time keeping secrets.
Yeah.
Just a warning. So, especially if they get really big, I'd be like, oh my gosh, that's
Yeah.
my book,
Yeah.
my book.
Yep. That's why I stopped looking it up because I was like,
Gotcha.
this is a slippery slope and I don't have time for it.
Gotcha. Do you have any tips for anyone who's interested in getting started in ghostwriting?
Yes. Set boundaries for yourself. That is
Okay.
my main tip for ghostwriting. Um, don't be afraid to tell don't be afraid to tell your client what you are and are not comfortable with. That goes with
Okay.
boundaries as well. But I mean, for me, the story is the most important part. And being a ghostwriter, sometimes you kind of have to just go with what the client wants. And so if
Right.
you're going to go into ghostwriting, you have to be really comfortable with feedback and criticism, sometimes from people who actually don't know how writing works.
Right.
That's not my
Interesting.
client. My client is amazing. She understands the writing process, but I've had clients who did not, and it did not leave much wiggle room.
Gotcha.
So, yeah, it was I I prefer vetting my clients,
Hmm.
making sure you do your research on them and really have like a consultation with them or just try to get a vibe with them before you start working with them. Um, but
Probably
yeah, yeah, the main thing
very
is boundaries and just protect yourself in terms of workload. In the beginning, I did not do that. And I was saddled with, I think at one point, three books at the same time.
oh my gosh.
And I ended up
Wow.
leaving because of that.
Oh,
And
I'm sure.
also because of just the it was bad vibes. We'll just say that.
Okay.
And I put my physical and mental health first. And so yeah, you just have to really take care of yourself. And if ghostwriting works for you and that's all you want to do, that's great. But if you want to do your own work, just make sure you make time for that as well.
Sounds great. Well, Leani, thank you so much for talking with me. Real quick, what social media can you be found on?
I am across all social media. It's
Okay.
Leani M as in Mary Lopez.
Okay.
And yeah, mostly on Instagram, like all the time.
Very good. That's where I found you, on
Yep.
Instagram. All right. Well, thank you so much for spending your time with me. I really, really, really appreciate it. It was fun and you taught me things I didn't know. So that was wonderful. Thank
Thank
you.
you for
I
having me.
appreciate your time. Have a great night.
You too.
Thank you for being with me on Books, Banter, and Beyond, the podcast for readers, writers, and all things bookish. Please make sure to like, subscribe, and leave a review. I look forward to seeing you again next week, and until then, grab a good book and happy reading.